You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Pace Radio Show. We're live here at paceradio.net and cbgtv.com. I'm Al Graham, and normally joining me at this time would be Tamara Cartwright, but Tamara is off tonight. She is picking up her daughters and is still in transit of all that. So she's presently not here, and who knows, she may join in during the broadcast, but other than that, I've still got ourselves a guest here tonight. Very informative guest, very interesting guest, and someone who's been involved in the cannabis community for generations. That's what I'm going to say, generations. So, but before I bring the guest in, I just got to do a little promo here, and that's on this CBG TV presents the Bud Break. It's a book, as you can see. It's got some pages in there. Volume 1, and inside it's got information on 20 different strains, some indicas, sativas, as well as hybrids, plants such as strawberry, banana. Let's see, that's terpenes. Oh boy, pages galore. A strawberry banana, Hindu Kush, Alien Bubba is in there, Chem Dog, and let's see what else. Pineapple Express, Lemon Skunk. Talks about CBD cannabis, consumption methods, terpenes, cannabinoids. It's I don't know. It's about a 100-page book. Check it out. Go to cbgtv.com. The proceeds from the book help pay the bills for CBG TV, and it's very informative and educational. Something you could have on your table, in your house. Maybe you have company that stops by, sitting on the coffee table. You can share with them. Maybe it's a book that maybe you could share with another patient that's looking for some information, and you may find it inside there because there's all kinds of information on the buds as well as the effects, so on and so forth. So check it out, cbgtv.com. I can hear the dog. All right. Well, at this time, as I mentioned, Tamara's not here right now. She may join in. So I'm just going to go straight into our guest tonight, who is Lelehnia DuBois. She's the founder and director of Humboldt Grace, located in California. But instead of me telling you all about herself, I'm just going to have her do it herself. So at this time, we'd like to welcome Lelehnia DuBois to the Pace Radio Show. Hello, Lele. How you doing?
Hey, Al. Nice to see you again.
Yes,
nice to talk to your audience again.
And actually, you're a past guest on the show, and that I believe that was like 2020. So it's been a few years.
With you and Julie. I've got her
correct
picture in honor of it.
Oh, there you go. Yes, Julie Curello was a joint host. She had you on as a guest, and we've come cross paths in other ways recently. And I said, hey, I believe you've been on my show before. Let's get together again. So it's good to be able to get caught up, find out what you've been doing, and we'll go from there. Go into as your information says there in front of you, your second generation cannabis community leader. So that's going to be some interesting conversation. I want to be able to dig into that some. But just for now, let's so people have an idea who you are. If you're a patient, you can let us know what you're using cannabis for. Maybe the way that you like to consume it the best. How it helps you out, and then maybe if you've got a podcast that you do yourself, and let us know that you do the podcast as well. Some general information.
Okay, well, where do I start? Well, I've been around this plant my whole life for as long as I can remember. I was a part of a counterculture community out of San Diego. We started things like the first People's Food Cooperative in the United States. Before the unschooling movement, I went to a school called OB Free School, and it was really about empowering the peoples to be the peoples again. And through that
Mm,
journey, my mom, being a part of a counterculture movement can also be really risky, and it put us under a lot of risk. And my mom was a nurse, and she found this amazing place for us to feel safe and stabilized in. And it's a little place, a little nook in the world called the Emerald
yeah.
Triangle, which
Oh
is
yes.
a really beautiful and unique place, and really is a place that probably saved me from the counterculture movement that we were a part of in Southern California that was so extreme.
You know,
Um,
we, we hear about the Emerald Triangle, and then now to be able to talk to somebody who's grew up there, like sounds like you're basically, whether you're born there or not, but you've been there basically your whole life, and it's things that some of us like myself we only read about it in a magazine, right?
I guess so. I didn't really understand all that until the recreational legalization came along. For me, it was just I grew up in this really unique small community and had this experience that I couldn't talk about outside of the
So,
rest of the world.
so would you be home educated as well, like homeschooled?
That's a great question. So my mom tried. She actually paid me $1 for every day that I wouldn't go to school. And I loved school. I wanted to be so straight. My mom was like so counterculture that I wanted to be really straight. And I love school. My class had 8 people in it. My teacher
Wow.
was really like my best friend. She still is. I get to see her all the time. um, I'm 53, and we moved into the area when I was 7. So I it was a really special place for me. It really helped. I had By the point we moved in that community, I was 7 years old. I had seen the worst
Yeah.
part of humanity, and moving into a rural community like that really helped me learn what the word community was. And
Yeah.
my mom was a total hippie, counterculturist. We were in a car accident in the community, and my sister had died in it, and we hardly
Oh.
knew anybody. Yet that little community came around us and supported us. I'd go to school and my hair would be in mats, and my teacher would brush my hair. My dad, he lived in San Diego. My teacher would drive me to visit my dad every holiday because she was from San Diego. The
Hmm.
loggers would bring us food when we were recovering. The community really came around us, and
Nice.
there were no separations between the humanity of us versus
Hmm.
our social ideals, our political ideals, or our economic position. We all really had to hang tough together.
Right. Yes. Yeah. As they said, it takes a community to raise a child, and that's what basically is what it sounds like was going on here. Is um, the Emerald Triangle was raising you.
Yeah, well, at that
Or
time
help.
in the 70s, people were really trying to rebuild this corporate world coming down our throats, and
Yeah.
timber prices, property got really low up here, and so people were able to secure their own land for a really low cost.
Hmm.
But there were no services, there was no power, there was no water. So we really, we're part of the Back to the Land movement. We really came up here to live off the grid and to figure out how to live outside of the government, outside of the power structures, and sustain ourselves
Hmm.
more indigenous cultures than Western white cultures have. And through that, everyone was a bunch of hippies, so they loved to smoke weed. But we really looked at gold mining. I have some
Okay.
elders that started out gold mining. A lot of people did cut firewood. But
Like,
naturally, the plant started being a way that we could build our solar systems and build our houses off the grid and live off the grid. It really became a tool to help sustain us outside of the man, for lack of a better word.
right. Yeah. Yeah. You become your own, like you say, your own community, self-sustained, able to um, be able to build the community, your own electrical grid through the solar systems, or maybe I don't know whether they're set up individually. I would assume, eh?
Yes, yes. Well,
Yeah.
now, of course, we have these huge, massive solar systems all over the world. But yes,
Yeah.
they were, I mean, we literally built ours from all sorts of stuff. You
Yeah.
couldn't buy a kit back then.
No,
But all
no, no. Like now you just go to a store. You can go to a solar store, your local department store, almost, and buy panels. Yeah,
right, right,
depends on how
right.
big you extravagant you go, for sure.
Right. One of
Right.
the things, though, I want to make clear about these communities, I mean, a lot of people think, oh, these communes and you're all isolated and, you kind of build your own little world with like minded ideals. I think what's a little different about the Emerald Triangle, especially the region that I grew up in, is that we were so isolated and we lived in such rugged terrains that
Mm,
loggers, the sheriffs, the pot growers, the teachers, we all had to respect each other and work together to
mm.
survive through the winters and things like that. So it was a
Oh,
really diverse community in a lot of ways too, that really had to cooperate with each other in order
mm.
to live there, and
Well,
still do
like
to
people
this day.
like Humboldt, California. Everybody thinks warm weather.
No, I'm in Humboldt right now.
You got a coat on.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's not as cold as it probably is in Canada, but I have a lot of health issues. One of the reasons I love the plant so much, um, and I live on the coast, and even though we
Okay.
get amazing terpene profiles, it's very damp and cold.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Today here was actually a nice day. Somewhere around about 68 degrees Fahrenheit. I still talk in Fahrenheit and miles. I don't always talk in Celsius or in kilometers.
Right, right.
So, yeah, I was like 68 degrees here, but I know that last weekend, within an hour's drive of me, they had snow.
Oh
So
wow, yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I saw some pictures online. I went, wow, that's getting close. But yeah, today was it was a nice day, and we're supposed to have another excuse me, another day around that same temperature tomorrow. So,
Nice. Well,
but
it was
we
like that part of the day here, but
we've had some -5 nights, just so you know as well. So,
okay,
but
that doesn't happen where I live.
doesn't it? Oh wow, what's cold then?
40 degrees is pretty freaking cold here.
40. So that would be here in, for those who use Celsius, that's about 8, 8, 7, 8, somewhere around there. And no, yeah, in the spring, that's a nice day.
Like I said, it's probably nothing compared to the extremes that you guys all have to deal with up there.
All right. Let's get into what you're doing right now. And then I want to get into some past stuff. And you're a patient as well. So we'll get into your patient story throughout the night. I always like sharing patient stories when possible because I believe that patient stories help educate others.
Right on. I like telling my patient story too, because it's actually how I fell in love with the plant.
Yeah, and a lot of people do, and people end up being accidental advocates because of maybe their daughter or young son are dealing with epilepsy, and next thing you know, their child is using cannabis in order to deal with it. So
Yeah, that's
them just like you and me and others, like medical benefits, and you go through them. You got to tell everybody. You want to tell everybody. It's and it educates other people.
right, right,
Yeah.
right.
Okay. Let's get into the Humboldt Grace. Let us know what that's all about. What got that started? What's it involve? And I've just so you know, I've got it here on the share screen.
Sure. Well,
Go on.
really, it comes from my childhood experience of what living in this community, growing up in this lifestyle, what my culture taught me, which is really that the most core values you should live by in life are love and grace. I believe that's what the plant teaches. When you act in love, you act in kindness. When you respond in grace, you amend, you don't
Mhm.
react, you process, you take time, you consider. And as we were progressing through legalization, there was a lot of tax me, let's get business going, but there
Right.
wasn't a lot being voiced around the core foundations that have allowed this plant to thrive in my community for generations. If we were cutthroat about the money with each other, if we didn't treat each other right, like, you didn't last very long. You had to have respect.
Yes. Correct.
And I started out in the legalization conversation as chair and president of a local organization called California Cannabis Voice Humboldt. And as the chair and president of that, I helped lead many farmers out of the trees, the woods, the hills into legalization. And through that process, it went right and I went left, is a great way to say it. And I saw the lack of these values being incorporated. I saw the lack of human rights issues being incorporated. And I saw our policies really being designed around the weight of the flower, when my culture taught me, and my illnesses taught me, and I was an indoor vertical grower primarily, taught me, is that we needed to start with the seed, that the structures of these plants and the medicines that these plants create and how they're created are so important to stabilizing the future and really building a smart industry around it. And that we were in California and in most of the states, we're just throwing flowers out the door without really understanding what they did, and what they were going to do for those consumers, those end consumers, and those product developers. So Humboldt Grace really became a way for me to start educating on those core values and bringing people together.
Yep.
Outside of my own personal leadership, I was leading a women's organization at the time, or I was helping lead a women's organization at the time called Women Empowered in Cannabis. And we had over 12,000 women. Actually, we still do. It's still an amazing organization that I'm still a part of. And I wanted a way to teach these values, not through my own face or through my own name, but as a whole, to be of the community voice, not just my voice, to be able to be more inclusive around the conversation. And so it became a way for me to do that. I started using it in many different projects. Not all of them succeeded. And I took a long road to get there. I launched a magazine during that time. I processed 4 cannabis permits in my community. We managed to accomplish during that time. But I kept really chasing all these things that I felt like needed to happen instead of chasing what I believed in.
Right.
And then when COVID hit, I got really ill. I have a spinal cord injury. And after launching a magazine, I was exhausted. I wasn't being paid. You know, the cannabis industry in the US is really bad about paying people.
No, that's not good.
You know, so I was physically, emotionally, and spiritually wiped out. And I ended up in the hospital for 5 days after getting up and walking from my injuries and healing. And I was so mad at myself for getting myself so sick, for overdoing it like that, like chasing this stuff down. And I went, you know what? If I'm not going to get paid in the cannabis industry, then I'm just going to do what I think needs to be happen and see what happens, you know? And so I called a bunch of really amazing people that I know believe in the same values, and we're frustrated how genetics were being dealt with, and we're frustrated about how the plant was being valued, and said, hey, will you guys all come together and meet, and let's figure out pathways to protect, preserve, authenticate, and give value to the plant.
Right. Now I've got the screen, as you can see there. I've got who you are, who everybody is, as you mentioned. You asked a bunch of people to get involved, and by the looks of it, you got quite a few.
I did, and there's a lot more people on there. We have like 170 people on the email on the mailing list. But these folks you see here are really the people that have either been at my beck and call on the phone, you know, or you know, they fundamentally do things to really help support. Like Kevin Jodry right there. He's the one who is hosting the series that we put together that we're going to put out on your network. Yeah, he's a pretty well-known guy in the breeder conversations. You know, I'm just some old lady. Nobody knows who I am. So Kevin's like, hey, Lele, I'll make that. I'll do those interviews. And he's done a beautiful job showing the love and grace in all these brilliant minds. We've got a Canadian that he interviews on there, Ryan Lee. He's a brilliant botanist. Yeah, we've got some great people on the show. And then Brian Hill on there is one of my elders. He's one of the original founders, I would say, of the cannabis industry in Northern California. He would be totally embarrassed that I said that, but really he's what I would call an OG. And then Daniel Hendricks there, his nursery has been housing the skunk ones that we've been doing all this research on.
Yes, we'll have to get into that.
So Humboldt Grace, sorry. I mean, I got all excited. Humboldt Grace is now what's called a Dream Maker project of a nonprofit here called the Ink Peoples. And it's really a way for me to create initiatives that I think are going to help or do good things. We helped over 50 people initially during COVID. We got them masks, we got them food cards. We've done some fundraisers around fire recovery and handed out building and ag supply vouchers to farmers in the rural regions because there's not as much support in those regions. And then we're doing this incubator research project, the Legacy Project. So it's really a place for us, because we're on the ground and in the thick of it, to enact things that'll help the community. Nice. And we see the genetics for the past 3 years as being something that we're really missing the conversation. We've been really missing the conversation on. Fortunately, the conversation is picking up.
Now, That is one of the projects. Like I see here, you got at the top there. You say you've got two projects: the resiliency, which is the Dreammaker thing, right?
Well, Humboldt, it's all Dreammaker, but the
Okay.
Resiliency Project is where we were partnered with a building and ag supply company called Daisy's Ag Supply. And
Mm-hmm.
a farmer can apply if they've been impacted by a wildfire to get one of those vouchers, a $500 voucher, to help
Oh, no.
them either rebuild or replant, or really to keep them going. We've also given money to a couple nonprofits in the area. One is called Pay It Forward Humboldt, and they're
Mm-hmm.
a local nonprofit who's on the ground during the crises, providing food and water and things like that. We've also gave them funds during the last fire. So it's really to help local, rural, either small businesses, community member landowners, homesteaders, or nonprofits that help and support during those times.
Yeah, because like from the reports I've heard, especially over these recent years, like massive fires going down there.
I'm 53. I said, yeah, I'm 53. And I've never seen wildfires. We had one a few years ago that just ripped right through the river that I grew up in, and it's a very, these are the very cliffy, very, very sharp areas, very rugged. That's the word I'm looking for. Like there's not far to run. And it was really, really devastating. But fortunately, this year, we were blessed by some early rains and then some Indian summer. There's Daisy Supply. These are all the folks, by the way, that have participated in that project.
Wow, look at them
It
all.
was really an incredible project. We had things donated from Jamaica, Coral Cove. It was just incredible. We did an online auction, and all these people came together and donated or promoted and supported in some way or another. It was really, really incredible.
Nice. That's a pile of people that are getting involved. Kudos to you guys for getting so many people involved and doing something that obviously is supported by the community.
Yes, we hope to do another one soon, but fortunately the community there, we didn't get hit too hard yet this year, so there hasn't been a need.
Well, yeah. Well, that's good when you look at it that way. That there hasn't been a need because there hasn't been that a massive destruction or whatever, big fire to do that. Before we get into anything else, I see it's the bottom of the hour, so why don't we just go for break now, and then when we come back, let's get into the other project, the Legacy Project.
Yes, the baby.
Yes. Exactly.
Sounds good.
Okay. Yeah. All right, after break we go. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with Lelehnia DuBois, and it's going to be an interesting conversation for sure. This is the Pace Radio Show. We're live here at paceradio.net and cbgtv.com.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab-tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Let's share Pace everywhere. That way it can help create peace. People everywhere advocating cannabis education.
Are you looking to get your medical cannabis grow license? Limestone City Hydroponics can help patients through the process of obtaining their license to grow medical cannabis. What's that? you don't have a doctor. If you meet the medical criteria, Limestone City Hydroponics has a nurse practitioner who can assess and provide medical cannabis prescriptions. What are you waiting for? Contact Limestone City Hydroponics at limestonecityhydroponics.ca or call them at 613-548-0420.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
PACE Radio is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
And you're watching the Pace Radio Show, and just to let everybody know, Tamara is off tonight, but I'm joined by my guest, Lelehnia DuBois. She's the founder of Humboldt Grace, located in sunny California.
Yeah,
I can say sunny.
Man, it's just chilly.
Yeah. As he said, people think California, they think warmth. But so I thought, okay, knowing you got a coat on,
I'll tell you,
I thought I might say sunny, because it could be sunny and still be cool, right?
yes, and it's really funny, we would get exchange students up here, and two of my best friends were exchange students. One was from Norway and one was from Germany, and they were told they were coming to California. And both of them thought they were coming to palm trees and the beach, and they came up to mountains, middle of nowhere, no power. It was a whole other experience, but they both ended up falling in love completely with the people in the area.
Good. Yeah, because I'm sure they were used to flush toilets, and that in the roughing it, you're not getting that. All right. As I said before the break, I wanted to get into your other project there, the Legacy Project, and as you said, your baby, and fill people in on what that is, and I'll bring it up again on the screen so everybody can see some of this stuff.
All right. Well, what it is it's a group of cannabis geeks that get together. Well, now we get together twice a month. For the past 3 years, we've been getting together once a week. And we've been looking for pathways to protect, preserve, authenticate, and give value to cannabis cultivars. I come from a community that has been curating this plant for, I know someone whose family's been doing it for over 6 generations. And there's a
Wow.
lot of knowledge that comes with that, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of amazing genetics that have been created from that knowledge. And what I've seen is people who are in their 70s and 60s and 80s give that knowledge away, and now with legalization they can barely survive, yet
Yeah.
some of those genetics are literally making millions of dollars in the market. We have a brand in the US that's it's probably in Canada too. I know they're in Thailand, and they're an $89 million company, and they really built the company around a genetic that the gentleman got from his neighbor. That neighbor is not a part of that company. And I come from a community of those neighbors. And and then I'm a patient. I need medicine. I'm technically a paraplegic, yet I get to walk. And I get to do that because of how well I understand how to take care of my body, and understanding what plant I need that's going to be good for me and what isn't going to be good for me, because some plants do trigger my issues. Some plants will give me headaches. Some will make me more nauseous. Some won't relax when I'm having a lot of muscle spasms, which will increase muscle spasms. I was also an indoor vertical grower, which needs a very specific plant structure, and you want your plants to finish a certain way. And so I really knew and understood, as do so many. I'm not anything special here. I'm just talking about it, as so many other very well experienced plant wizards know, that genetics were the key to the sustainability of this marketplace. Genetics and the IP behind them. My best friend's a product developer, and we have a product line that we want to put out one day, but we need to be able to consistently produce the same kind of plant over and over again to give that product for our consumers to trust it. We need consumers across the globe to trust the plant the way we can. We need patients across the globe to be able to go, hey, this is the kind of plant I need, because I need these values. And we're the communities who hold those medicines and hold those plants. But the marketplace wasn't talking about it. Science just began to unpeel the onion. We're just beginning to talk about esters and all these other things, terpenes, and like, we haven't even started to really talk what's in this plant yet.
I have a friend that even a name of a strain to him wasn't important, but obviously
some names help you, because some names can help you genetically track the plant or kind of give you an idea of what they do, but it's so not consistent that's hard. You can't go by that, right? And so what we wanted was a way, instead of the farmer, the grower, the industry person going, yeah, I grow good weed, we know from our generations of experience that you don't have to say anything. The plant sings for you when you allow her to be the star. And so we were donated by someone I've known for, about 25 years. His wife and I did the roller derby. I wasn't a skater. I was a ref. But we did the roller derby together. I've known him for about 25 years, and he donated 2 skunk ones that we were allowed to go and take and see if we could not protect them in a way that was accessible for the small farmer, because our small farmers are not rich out here.
It mentions here that you got them donated by Marty Yip and Hendrick's Farm.
No, Marty Yep, and Hendricks Farm. Hendricks Farm is the licensed nursery that it's under.
Okay.
That's been caretaking it since 2019. And Marty Yip is the breeder who gave them to us. He is not the breeder that bred the skunk one, obviously. That is Sam Skunkman or David Watson, whichever you choose to call him. He prefers to be called David Watson when you're talking about science, and Sam Skunkman when you're talking about culture. So we're talking about a little bit of both.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to find a way to honor those breeders so they got paid, to protect them. You know, patenting a plant is incredibly expensive and not accessible for someone who can't even get Social Security, you know.
Right.
So, and then we needed to find a way to say that this was real. Like, how? Because here I am, this 53-year-old woman, nobody listens to me in this industry. You know, they all look at me and they don't think I know what I'm talking about.
You're looking for somebody in a suit, some guy in a suit,
exactly. Or I'm not like some dude, you know, with a beard or whatever.
Yeah.
So like, how can we, without having to like go, no, I know this plant does this, you know, I know this. How can we prove that this plant is special? You know, how can we prove we think this is skunk one because he bought it from someone who told him it was, right? And I trust Marty to tell me the truth. So he's only telling me what he's been told, right? We can't like, so how do we prove that this really is a skunk number one?
Yeah. Some people say, well, you know, you buy some seeds that say skunk number one on, but that isn't, you know, what the original genetics.
Every plant's going to be a little different too, right? Because they're also special in their own way. So really, to even say that all of this is skunk one and it's going to be the same medicine isn't true, right? Because all those plants, one of those plants could exhibit amazing amounts of CBG and thiols. The other plant could have tons of limonene and more, you know, THCV or, you know, who knows what in it, you know, but those are two totally different profiles.
Oh, you know? For sure. Yeah. Because the benefits, individual benefits.
Right. And that's what matters, is the true outcome of the plant to the end consumer. And what we need as cannabis advocates is for the end consumer to buy into it the way we have, so they will start demanding for better medicine and better laws and better pathways and accessibility, right? And so how do we do that? Well, we have to first understand really what we're making. And so we had all these great scientists, technologists. I mean, I'm a community builder and I'm very smart, but I'm not a scientist. I have some scientific training because I went to nursing school, but you know, I don't know like DNA, molecular sequencing and all of that. But fortunately, the guys at Medicinal Genomics came to the table and donated their most comprehensive sequencing. Not only did they donate that, but they attended to the meetings every Friday and participated in the conversations.
Nice.
The Grow Off is a competition in the US where growers usually get a cut they don't know, and then they grow it and they win through science. So it's all the labs that determine the winner, not by people smoking it. They volunteered to put one of the selections out. So we have it out to 40 farms and we'll get all the data back on that to show what it does and how it does it in these different environments. But through the DNA sequencing, we were able, and you know, we didn't know if this would happen. We really didn't care. What we wanted was the data to say this is the truth of what this is, whatever that is. If it was a piece of crap plant, then it was a piece of crap plant. But this plant actually has been very generous with us. And she, through the DNA sequencing, we've discovered and been able to scientifically show that she is from the lineage of David Watson's skunk number 1, that he did sell to GW Pharmaceuticals. That all is no longer void, so it's an open domain and we can play with it as we wish. But we can prove that. And then we also found through one of the selections that there is a rare allele that had been yet to be identified. And that allele has 6 very unique heterozygotes variants. Now, what all that means exactly is I wish I had Daniel or one of the more people to explain that to you. But what I can say is what it means is that the plants that we were able to cross-reference and that medicinal genomics have sequenced, that these traits have yet to be seen. And what we don't know is what those traits do. We don't know why they're there. We don't know anything about those traits. But we know that this plant is very unique compared to what has already been looked at. Very few plants have been looked at this extensively. But what it does is it really helps us do what we're trying to do with the project, which is find ways to protect, authenticate, and give value to these plants. And so automatically it shows that this plant is more unique than the other plant, right? Yeah. So all of a sudden you have 2 different values right there. And so we're building this pathway forward, very old community grassroots style, doing it as we go, towards an auction where we're going to auction off these selections and some other unique cultivars out to the bigger industry in hopes to inspire the smaller cultivators to stay small and innovate rather than follow the market, create the market trends through their innovations, because the reason the Emerald Triangle has been such a hub for so many generations in growing this plant and curating so much genetic diversity is because we have a unique cluster of diverse microclimates. And so you can grow a skunk one in one community and then 100 miles away in another community, and you're going to get different plant profiles. And
really?
So we hope to see is through this with these 40 farms is what comes out in those different climates, what makes it maybe some phenols exhibit, although this skunk one was bred to remove the skunk smell, so we're not sure how skunky it'll be. But who has more of the limonene in it, which is what it was bred for. We don't know, but we're going to get to take a look in January, and we're going to put all that data together and see what it comes. And right now, the one with the unique variants is we have a partnership with a company called Mocha Humboldt. And they're very small batch producers. They produce about 8 pounds a time of cool, unique strains. They're vertically integrated indoor, but they grow with soil. They've been growing out the skunk number 3, which is the one with those alleles. The skunk number 1, which is the one with those alleles variants. And it's beautiful. If people go to Humboldt Legacy Project's Instagram, they can see a little video. It's not a great video because it was just taken on the fly, but they can get an idea of where it's at. And we're going to be talking that out in December 22nd.
It may not be a big professional video, but it still can get the message across or the information out, right?
Yeah, well, that you can see it, everyone. Yeah. It's such people love to talk in the industry, and it's such a a known strain that there's lots of talk about it. So it just gives you a chance to see how it's producing. And it's in a room with a couple other strains, and the buds are much denser and stacking up more than the two other strains in the room. The grower, Nate is his name at Mocha. He's been doing this for a very long time. He said that the plant is unique. He had to adjust some of his normal regimen to make sure she did her best. Most legacy strains are a little bit more difficult to grow.
Yeah.
Indoor growing really helped kind of perfect that so you could produce better. But now that he's figured that out, he's really excited about it, and we're really excited about it.
Good. And like you say, the buds are bigger, which is
Yeah.
you can get oversized because especially if you're growing outside, you can end up with bud rot, right? But
Right. Well, it is outside. The other selection is outside through the grow off.
yeah. Now, how are they able to here we can deal with powdery mildew before you know it, your plant's covered in it. Any testing along that as far as resistance to the bud rot or the powdery mildew?
No, we don't know right now, but in January, after all those amazing grow off farmers are done with their competition, we'll be able to see some of those things. We'll be able to see where it exhibit more resilience or didn't it, or we'll understand that. I won't say anything, but it's really not an easy plant to grow. The old OG, I did not like growing it. It was so hard to grow. I tried to grow it a couple times because it had such great market value back in the day. I did not like growing it. And I honestly probably would feel the same way about the skunk, but it's such an incredible foundation to this industry and to so many other genetics out there that it's incredibly valuable for breeding. And hopefully it'll be really great for smoking too when Mocha makes their first drop.
And skunk is in a lot of different strains. Like it's in the crossbreeding, right?
Right. Well, David bred it because he wanted to create something that was commercially viable, is the words he used. He bred it to go big and to go to GW, and he spread those seeds all over the world to try to figure it out, and so it's one of those foundational strains in so many things out there. It's probably one of the most shared cultivars in history. Besides the really old landrace ones that were just all over the world forever.
Yes, there are some of those. I know, when you talk about the industry getting hold of strains, and you mentioned earlier about somebody $89 or $90 million. I know here when Canada went the route of the licensed producers, and they wanted the licensed producers to grow for the patients, and they took away our licenses to grow. But when these companies all started up, they were actually allowed to, for a certain amount of time, be able to purchase strains off of patients.
Yep.
But really, John, like you said earlier, Johnny gets a clone from somebody. That person says what it is, but is it?
Right. Well, and then how do you know where it came from? We partnered with a company that I ended up becoming a part of to help develop an app called Canopy Right. And it's a unique blockchain system. We took the traditional blockchain system, which is for open source, and kind of flipped it around and made it closed source for the breeder. So it's a place where none of the DNA leaves your house or your farm or whatever. It stays in your freezer, but you can create what's called in America, it's a legal term, prior art, which means that it gives you a time-stamped on the blockchain proving that you had this DNA before, say, some big ag company gets it. And so if 10 years later, some big ad company ends up with something and you're all, no way, that is my medicine. You have the DNA to cross-reference and prove to them so they can't patent it. They can't use it against you. So that was the first step in order for the Legacy Project to really work, is we needed a way for breeders to feel safe to send their genetics to the labs, because they were not feeling safe enough in the US to trust the chain of custody between here and there. And now with this blockchain system that we created called Canopy Right, there's a tool, and it's free to breeders to protect themselves like this, to create that chain of custody so they can start working with it outside of their own little circle. And have some accountability around it.
And they would be able to sell those, knowing that that the genetics are authentic or real, versus, just because you can go to a seed bank, and the seed bank will have its own line of seeds, but they get their seeds in bulk and then they put them all in the packages. And I've seen where I've had a White Widow indica and a White Widow sativa.
Right, and nothing about to diss on any of those breeders out there hustling their seeds. I mean, like I love it. I love the seed being spread everywhere. Everyone should grow weed. It should be all over the world, and it should be free, as far as I'm concerned. However, it's not. And unfortunately, especially in California, the way the regulations are designed, it made it really hard for people to do that. And it made it really expensive. Fortunately, in other states across the US, they've put in better laws around their genetics, and they are able to sell those genetics across state lines. Here locally, it all has to be done through Metric, the track and trace system that the state has put in place around cannabis.
Right. Okay. So you can do some interstate stuff.
Not yet. The Canopy Right has a Canopy Right 2.0 that we're funding for right now. And that 2.0 is actually smart contracts for licensing agreements.
Okay.
So it's ready for that. And that's where the company will make money, because on those licensing agreements, just like a lawyer, they charge you a little bit for a service fee.
Right.
And so, but right now we needed, because this industry is moving fast and things are disappearing, and we're not, people are walking away from their licenses and losing their genetic libraries. And like we felt something needed to happen now, not tomorrow. And so Canopy Right got the protection part of the system in place and working so that breeders could start using that immediately.
And then if they ever get to the point of interstate commerce, then you'll be ready for that, because as you mentioned, you got the 2.0. It's all there to go. It's just, come on, federal government, right?
Right. Let's figure this conversation out. I don't know. Our federal government in the U.S. has a lot of conversations to figure out.
They have problems just figuring out a speaker. Never mind. All right. I see it's the top of the hour. That means it's time for us to take a break. All right. And
all right.
We'll continue this conversation. And I want to get into your patient story as well in the last segment of the show. So we'll talk to everybody on the side. You're watching and listening to the Pace Radio Show. We're live here at paceradio.net and cbgtv.com.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
When you think of the number of unique products developed in the fields, kitchens, and labs at Legacy 420, it's hard to think that one stands out above the rest. But tell that to the thousands of people who have tried this amazing breakthrough product.
This is our Sacred Salve. This is actually our extra strength. It comes in 5 different strengths. It's all natural, all organic. It typically works within 10 to 15 minutes of putting it on. It's good for arthritis, it's good for inflammation, any kind of pain. We're very proud of it.
Sacred Salve, so easy to apply, along with soothing relief. To select a strength that's right for you, come in and talk to your trusted partner. Legacy 420 out on your road.
Pace Radio Network, by patients, for patients, and for those who want to know.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Are you a cannabis content creator? Are you looking for a place to have your content seen? If you answer yes to both questions, then you need to check out cbgtv.com.
Let's share Pace everywhere. That way it can help create peace. People everywhere advocating cannabis education. Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
Hey, welcome back. You're watching the Pace Radio Show. I am joined by my guest, Lelehnia DuBois. She's the founder and the director of Humboldt Grace. And just so everybody knows, Tamara has tonight off, and she'll return next week. So, Lele, throughout the show, we've got little drips and drabs of some information of you as your cannabis patient. As we talked about earlier, I'm a person who believes that when patients share their stories, they educate other people. Even if that person may not have a particular condition, they may know somebody, and they can turn around and share that information. Or, for example, if somebody is on the show talking about it and somebody else sees it, they turn around and share a show and say, hey, listen to this person. This is what this person has benefited from by using cannabis.
Yeah, well, it's really, like I said earlier, how I fell in love with the plant. I started trimming weed when I was 9 years old. I have no memory without cannabis in it as a young child. It was a part of life. At 13, I watched three vans pile up at my school, load up with officers with machine guns, and drive up the hill towards our house. Called my mom saying, oh my gosh, they're coming. The stories that you hear about the Emerald Triangle with the helicopters, those are all real things. All those drug war things really impacted me. I was raped and I was unable to report it. It's quite a long list of things that happened to me as a young woman because I grew up in a culture that we couldn't report, and we had to hide, and integrate with society because we were a little different than mainstream society in a lot of ways. So I worked really hard to be normal. I was class president. I was captain of the cheerleading squad. Um, I was going to nursing school. I really loved science. My mother was a very esoteric person. She was a midwife. She believed in natural healing. She believed in earth spirit. And I just wanted to be everything not that. And in nursing school, I caught a patient and I ruptured 2 discs into my spinal cord. And
You caught a patient? What do you mean you caught a patient?
They were falling and I caught them.
Yeah, well, that's what I was going to get to. They were actually falling like out of the bed or something?
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay.
And those vertebrae disintegrated and shattered, and that bone fragment frayed my spinal cord like a rope. And it also caused my L4 vertebrae and my L3 vertebrae to disintegrate, causing my L5 to collapse onto my S1.
Oh, shit.
So my spine was going like this. My pelvis was going like this. It was excruciating for many years. But the first 8 months of those years, I really thought that Western medicine was going to save me. I thought the doctors were like God, I really believed in it. And in the 8th month, I ended up in a coma because they really did not know what the fuck to do with me and made a lot of assumptions. And in that coma, I had this experience that really told me that I needed to listen to my mom. And I needed to listen to my heart. And that all these feelings that I feel, I needed to start tuning into that and not ignoring it. And I came out knowing that I had to go a more spiritual path of healing than the scientific path. And in that same time period in the hospital, my little sisters came, and just because they grew up totally in weed, they didn't have the struggle that I had really. They also are younger and didn't have the same negative impacts that I had. They grew up in a more loose time. Weed was more accepted. It wasn't cool all the time, but it was a little different. So I really, so they said, will you please start using marijuana? And I did. I started using it. I was surrounded by it. I was, and it didn't really help with my pain or stuff at first, but what it really helped with my state of mind. At the same time, I was really working really hard to meditate. And I was in so much pain that I would see blood coming out of the walls. It was like I can't even, the pain I was in was excruciating. They had me on so many drugs, which is what I was allergic to, some of the drugs they were giving me, which put me in a coma.
And they give you pills to counteract other pills on top of all that.
Oh gosh, it was just horrible.
I know.
So that started me really tapping in and tuning into myself spiritually and learning how to heal I was sexually molested from as long as I can remember. I have scars on my legs from the molester burning me. And I have I'm a part of a group of kids. I've really seen the worst of humanity.
Wow.
And so
For previous food.
I knew that in order to heal, I had to heal those things within myself. And I had to start really finding the peace that my mom had found through her path.
Mhm.
And it cannabis helped me open up to that. It helped me open up to loving myself and starting
Mhm.
to see my own beauty, because I
Yeah.
thought I was the ugliest, most grossest. When a young woman has all her power taken away before she's even really 5, you
Yeah.
you you don't feel very pretty or powerful. And so the plant really helped me start that process.
Good.
And then as I started to master it and started to learn more and started learning about genetics, it started helping with my inflammation, which started helping with my pain. And then I
Mhm.
started, understanding how to use it better for my pain and what, it just I started using it with knowledge instead of just, oh, here, smoke this.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
It,
And I would just like I know like a lot of patients at the beginning when especially here with legalization and stuff, and with the medical program, a lot of people think all you had to do was smoke cannabis. Well, there's much more ways to consume it than smoking it.
I smoke it. I also take a nightly rice drop of RSO,
Mm.
and I use topicals. I put it in my bath. Um,
Bath bombs.
yeah, or just I'll put just straight RSO in my bath. I'm pretty the easiest because I'm in pain all the time. It's like the simplest, easiest way to
Yeah.
want to get. I count my
Right.
steps. Oh, how much energy, how many steps do I have today? So yeah, sometimes, but I also my best friend's a formulator and she makes some pretty spectacular bath salts. So I get those too. But yeah, I really think, there's so many ways to use the plant.
Yes.
It's its own what is it? It's its own world of pharmacopoeia.
It
Uh,
is. It really is.
yeah, I really think it's on the woo woo side, I like to say that she is like an angel for Earth's
Yeah.
message. She's here to teach us Earth's message, and we're her interpreters. That as advocates for this plant and as people who benefit from this plant, we have a responsibility to interpret her truth,
Yeah.
not traffic her out. And it's okay to
Yeah.
benefit,
Yeah.
but I think that when we honor her with that through that benefit, we end up in much better places.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's some that don't look at the health benefit and they look at it at the money end. There's a meme that I saw there today where it had a picture of a lady, an older lady, looking at a plant and says, "I'm waiting to heal," And then another picture beside it is somebody who's standing there like waiting for the money to come off of it. It was yeah.
Well, I'll tell you something. I've been around her my whole life, like I said, and she does bring you that abundance if that's what
Yeah.
you need and what fills your heart. But if you don't respect it, respect is like such an important thing, I think, in life. If you don't respect it, like if she smacks you, she is a very karmic tool. If you don't want to look at your
Mhm.
karma, like keep back, because she is, and I know that with every cell of my being, because I've experienced it
Yeah.
myself.
Yeah. Exactly.
So
Now,
I have hope. I have hope that she's gonna help the world out a little more.
yeah. Like you mentioned that you found the other benefits from it. Wasn't so much for the pain end of things. Did you? I gotta assume that you must have been on some type of painkillers during that time.
Yes, I was
The
on
dog is
the
got in.
so I have tried every legal pharmaceutical narcotic drug, muscle relaxer drug, sleep drug. I mean, I'm sure there's some new ones I haven't tried because it's been a few years, but actually it's been like 17 years, 18 years. But I tried them all, and they actually what it's very interesting. What worked the best for me, meaning I didn't pass out in public. I didn't, because nothing, they didn't know what was happening to my spine. So like the
Yeah.
amount of pain I was in, nothing was working. Um, and it was fentanyl patches. I was on 100 microgram Duragesic
Oh.
patches that got changed every 2 days, which is
Oh.
a lot.
Oh. Lots.
A
Holy
lot.
smokes.
A lot, a lot, a
Oh.
lot, a lot. Yeah, it was
Oh.
incredible. But then I had this amazing surgery. This surgeon took a chance on me, and he
Mhm.
went in. He thought he was going to do a 2-hour surgery, and he ended up doing a 27-hour surgery. And
Holy
what he
smokes.
yeah, he basically protected. He said there was a little tiny bit of my spinal cord left, and he felt if he could stabilize my spine that it would help my pain. But when I came out, he did a 27-hour surgery, and he said I was never going to walk again. And I said, well, I don't remember anything for the first 2 weeks because I was on an incubator. But when I
Yeah.
finally woke up, I said, don't talk to me. If I ask for something, provide it. And I went into a meditation I do. I called it cellular regeneration. And I did my visualization, and I sent all this love light into my spinal cord. And 4 days later, I came out of that, and I walked with a walker to the bathroom.
No.
That was all power of mind and spirit. And the plant really helped me learn how to do that stuff.
Yeah. Wow. That's. I imagine they were quite surprised to see you walk to the bathroom.
They were blown away. They're still blown away. Every time a doctor actually gets to look at my spine, they can't believe I'm walking.
Really? Eh? Oh, you must.
I'm very blessed.
Yeah, yeah, it'd be like mush down there. Like, how have they even rebuilt that?
A whole bunch of titanium, Nairobi, all sorts of metals. There's like 4
Metals,
different
eh?
metals in there. Yeah.
You go off on a metal detector when you go through the airport.
No, I don't. Some other kind of metals. He did it with a
Oh, okay.
robot. And yeah.
Oh, that's I can see why you're dealing with a lot of pain, even with all that the metal in there, like arthritis, all that stuff on top of it.
Well, I have
Yeah.
celiacs, and it causes severe inflammation, which is where cannabis helps a lot, is with my
Yeah.
celiac. And all my joints like dislocate. And I think that a lot of that is from the stress of the spinal cord injury. So
Yeah.
I do have a lot of arthritis, but not my back. I don't really feel that part of my back.
Just it's too bad. Yeah, celiac. That's not good either. Bowel condition to deal with. I feel for you. With me with the Crohn's, and I got some news recently on it. But yeah, it's diet, trying to control all that.
Right. And this world is so stressful, and food can be so toxic. It's a challenge.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Why with
Like I
all
know when
these
I
diseases.
you think you're getting something that is safe to eat, but unfortunately, you don't find out that it wasn't until it's too late.
Right.
Yeah. Fears of eating sometimes. It's never any good. All right. Let's see. What else have I got on here? I've touched on the patient story. We've touched on the fact that you're second generation cannabis. Oh, okay. Oh, hi, baby.
I'm
The
going to
puppy
turn
just
on my
came in.
light here real quick, Al.
All right, you go ahead and do that. We've talked about your projects. We've talked about the vertical growing. Now, your meetings and stuff like that. Any public education involved in that? We got about 5 minutes left, and then we'll be done. So
Yes, well, we're partnering with you on that. We've also
Yeah.
partnered with the U.S. Weed Channel on that, and we're going to be getting episodes up on our YouTube. But
Nice.
we've been filming a series that we're calling Humboldt Legacy Project with host Kevin Jodry. And we've interviewed folks like Jerry Whitting, who created the original cannabis breeders' rights, Ryan Lee, who you might know. He helped, he worked with David Watson and helped catalog a lot of his collection. He's a plant botanist. He's made some amazing cultivars that are out there in the world. You can see his work on breeding cannabis on Instagram. Daniel Hendricks, who's also been in Humboldt County for his whole life. Another guy, Joshua Stroud, who's a second generation breeder cultivator as well, out of Oregon. Just a lot of interesting folks.
Yeah.
Nathan Johnson, he's a DNA scientist. Usama Baghdad, he's a plant geneticist from Morocco who has like a 20th century legacy. He is.
There goes Aglet.
Yeah, I really, he blows my, he goes, we're the original Emerald Triangle, you know, and he is like taking the plant apart and doing all these crazy things. So it's just really an amazing group. All the people that have come to the table, a lot of the people, not all of the people, but a lot of the people who've brought their resources to the table to make this project possible to where it's gotten so far. Because all of this, Al, I am a single disabled mom. All of this has been done on the resources of what we have to bring to the table. It's the potluck project. You know, we've all shared, in the cannabis industry, people are not sharing, you know, and we're too small to not share. We're not going to build a healthy industry if we don't integrate and educate with each other. And this project is a perfect example of what a community can do together when they really work together and put their resources towards something. And it really, I'm so proud because I feel so honored to get to have worked with all these amazing people that came to the table with a lot of heart.
Yeah, well, there's quite the list that you got there on the website, all the people that are involved in all this. So, I see we're close to the end here. Shout out time, person, place.
So we're going to be airing that soon, right?
Yeah. That'll all go out. You and I still got some talking to do.
Okay.
Not much, but there's a little bit to go. And then we'll be running that stuff on CBG TV. So it's going to be very interesting to watch. There's no doubt about that. Especially these projects. So, website
www.humboldtgrace.org.
All right. You're on social medias?
Yes, we have Humboldt Grace on Instagram and the Humboldt Grace Legacy Project on Instagram. And then on Facebook, we're Humboldt Grace. And then we have, and this is where I communicate and share what we're doing the most. Like everyone gets the early pictures, and it's called the Humboldt Grace, a community gathering place. It's a group on Facebook that anyone who wants to come to the table with their core values, love and grace, please join the group.
All right. And say the group's name again.
Humboldt Grace, a community gathering place on Facebook.
Yeah, I think I'm in that group.
Oh, right on.
I think so. I think I'm on that. All right. Okay. Other than that, just let everybody know that we're on our way out, and that you can find the Pace Radio Show again next week. We'll be live with a guest by the name of Sean Pauly. I believe Pauly is by the looks of the way. It's that name thing we discussed before the show. You know, we have problems with names, right? He's the CEO of a company to come on and talk about what he's doing these days to help patients. But other than that, you can find us on Twitter. We're on Facebook. You'll find us on the web, paceradio.net. Thank you go out to our sponsors, the friendly folks at legacy420.com, the Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, as well as Limestone City Hydroponics. Big thank you to our guests, Lele DuBois, for coming out, for being on the show, and talking about many different subjects.
Thank you for having me, Alan, to all your listeners. Have a great night.
You too. Thanks to everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you all next week. Thank you, and good night, and thanks to you, Lele, again.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.